Men over 60. What happens when you mix baking soda with castor oil? Daily advice for elderly. A body that used to feel like home. There's a quiet moment, often in the early morning, when you catch your reflection in the mirror. And it takes you a second to recognize the man looking back. The same mirror you've stood before for decades, shaving, adjusting your collar, preparing for days that once held more certainty, but now the lines run deeper. The skin looser, the eyes, they hold more history than fire. And it's not about vanity, it's not about wishing for youth, it's about feeling, foreign in your own body. There was a time when movement felt natural, when energy hummed beneath your skin like an old engine that always turned over, no matter the weather, when your body felt like a place you lived in, not one you had to manage. Now, some mornings feel like negotiation. The joints are slower to trust you, the digestion unpredictable, the libido quieter, even the breath feels shorter, like your chest forgot how to fully expand, and beneath all of that, there's a whisper. A question you don't always say out loud. When did I start drifting away from myself? But what if? Your body isn't failing you. What if it's simply calling for you, not as a soldier, not as a machine, but as a companion? This discomfort, this unfamiliarity, it may not be a breakdown, it may be a message, a quiet request to return, not to the man you once were, but to the man you've become, with all his history, his wisdom, his scars. Because healing at this stage doesn't begin with force. It begins with recognition, with standing in front of that mirror and not turning away, noticing, listening, letting the unfamiliar become familiar again. And from that place, something begins to shift, not fast, not loud, but real, and perhaps for the first time in a long while, your body feels not like a stranger, but like a home, asking to be lived in again. The slow accumulation of toxins and regret. You didn't mean to ignore your body. There was just always something else: the work, the family, the pressure to keep going. You pushed through the tiredness, swallowed the heartburn, shrugged off the stiffness in your joints and the heaviness in your gut. You told yourself it was part of being a man, part of being strong, but now the silence of older age has a way of making things louder. You notice it, the bloating that never fully settles, the dull ache beneath the surface, the way energy drains faster than it used to, and somewhere deeper, a kind of shame, not loud, not dramatic, just a quiet sense that you let things pile up too long. But here's the truth: most of what burdens you now didn't arrive all at once. It built itself slowly, like soot in a chimney, day after day. Tiny particles of inflammation, tension, and unprocessed stress layered themselves inside you. Not out of neglect, but out of necessity. You were surviving, doing what you had to do, putting others first. That's not failure, that's love in disguise. And yet the body remembers. It carries what we never had the time or tools to release. Undigested food, unspoken grief, unexpressed needs. They linger, but the beautiful thing about the body is, it's still listening, even now, even at 60 or 70. It hasn't given up on you. All it asks is that you notice. Not with guilt, but with care. Not to fix, but to reconnect. Because healing doesn't always start with action. Sometimes it starts with simply saying, I see you, I haven't forgotten you. I'm ready to clean the chimney. Gently, slowly, with no rush, just a man, coming back to his body, one quiet breath at a time. The alchemy of two simple ingredients. It's easy to overlook the quiet things, the small things, the things that don't arrive in fancy bottles or promise overnight miracles. But sometimes healing begins exactly there in the quiet. You've heard 1,000 claims, pills for energy, creams for pain, tonics for youth, and maybe you've tried a few only to feel let down, or worse, numbed. But this is different, because it's not about adding something foreign. It's about working with what your body already knows, and what it may have quietly forgotten: baking soda, castor oil, two simple ingredients so ordinary they almost seem laughable. One, a powder most men keep tucked away for heartburn or kitchen use. The other, a thick golden oil used in old remedies your mother or grandmother may have sworn by. But when you place a drop of castor oil into a spoon of baking soda, something happens, not in the loud chemical way, but in the way a river slowly clears when the mud begins to settle, something harmonizes. Baking soda gently shifts the body's pH, not to fight it, but to remind it, to whisper, "You still know balance." Castor oil, rich in ricinoleic acid, moves through the system not with force, but with flow. It supports circulation, relieves internal stagnation, soothes inflammation, the kind you often can't see, but feel, in your joints, your gut, even your moods, and together, they act less like medicine, and more like old friends. They don't fix you. They stand beside you, offering support, not noise, alignment, not control. There's no promise here, just the possibility that maybe, through consistent care and quiet rituals, you begin to feel more like yourself again. Sometimes the answer isn't louder, it's quieter, it's simpler, a drop, a spoon, a return to what already lives within you. Let it begin there, gently. What happens inside beyond the surface, you've likely heard all your life, that the body keeps score. But what you may not hear often enough is that it also keeps grace. Every late night spent ignoring your gut, every decade lived under the weight of stress or unresolved emotion, every quiet ache you chalked up to age. It's all been stored somewhere inside, not as punishment, but as an accumulation, a slow layering of what was never released. And that's where something as unassuming as baking soda and castor oil enters the story. Not as some miracle fix, but as a gentle broom, a quiet invitation for the body to begin exhaling again. Baking soda's simple, alkaline, old as the earth, works like a soft reset for your internal terrain. It can reduce the acid burden that builds slowly over the years, in your joints, your digestion, even your moods. Castor oil moves deeper still. It has a way of coaxing the body's internal systems, your liver, your intestines, even your lymph, to start flowing again, like unclogging a stream long blocked by fallen branches. And when these two are used together, not in urgency but in ritual, something begins to shift. You may not notice it in a dramatic way. It might begin as less bloating, a softer belly in the morning, a clearer mind in the afternoon, or a lighter chest at night. That's what happens when the internal clutter begins to lift. Because cleansing isn't just a physical process, it's emotional, too. There's a kind of grief that gets stored when your body doesn't feel like yours anymore, and there's a quiet joy in slowly returning to it, like opening windows after a long winter, letting the stale air drift out, letting the wind remember your name. You don't need to force anything. You just need to make space for breath, for flow, for renewal, and let the body, that old, faithful house, find its rhythm again. On its own time, in its own quiet way. No pressure, just permission. You are not meant to age in silence. There comes a time, often quietly, without fanfare, when the body no longer moves the way it used to, and the silence around it grows thicker. You don't talk about it, not because you're afraid, but because you've been taught not to complain, not to ask, not to admit that the man you were is no longer the man you wake up with. And so the aches stay unnamed, the fatigue becomes normal, and the loss of desire, of drive, of warmth, slips into the background like an old photograph no one looks at anymore. But hear this now, you are not meant to age in silence. Aging isn't exile, it's not a punishment for having lived, it's a return to the parts of you that were too busy surviving to be fully felt, like an old tree, rough, barked, weathered, still rooted in the same soil, still rising upward, year after year. It may not bloom like it once did, but its strength is deeper now, its presence is steadier, its wisdom held in rings no eye can see. You are that tree, you are not broken, you are becoming. The changes in your body are not betrayals. They are invitations to slow down, to feel more fully, to listen where once you pushed. Yes, your muscles may not fire the same, your hormones may shift like autumn winds, but your soul is not weaker. It is ripening, and in that ripening there is power, not loud power, quiet power, not the kind that needs to be proven, but the kind that simply is. So no, don't go silent. Let your breath carry the truth of your becoming. Let your hands rest on your own chest and say, I'm still here, rooted, rising, alive, and that is enough. A gentle ritual, a gentle return. There's something almost sacred about a man returning to himself. Not with noise, not with urgency, but with a small, steady ritual. You don't need a clinic. You don't need a diagnosis. What you may need is a quiet rhythm, something your body can trust. Just imagine this at the end of the day when the world grows quiet. You walk to your kitchen. You take a teaspoon of baking soda, a spoonful of castor oil, a glass of warm water. Nothing loud, nothing dramatic, just presence. You stir slowly, the way your grandmother might have stirred tea leaves or warm milk. And you place that small glass on your bedside table, not because it's a magic cure, not because you're chasing instant change, but because it reminds you your body still matters. Most men were never taught how to care for themselves gently. We were taught to fix, to push through, to numb, but this is different. This is a ritual, not a remedy, a slow reminder that healing doesn't rush. As the mixture enters your system, it begins the quiet work, soothing acidity, supporting your liver, gently nudging your colon, stimulating the lymph, unclogging years of silent accumulation, not just physically, but emotionally too, and over time, as the days begin to fold into each other. You may notice something subtle. Your sleep deepens, your belly softens, that tight, hard edge in your joints. It eases, and perhaps more important than any symptom, you start showing up for yourself again. Not because you're broken, but because you're listening. That glass on your nightstand, it's not a product, it's a promise. A promise that even now in this later chapter of life, you're still allowed to care. To cleanse, to begin again, without apology, no pressure, no performance, just you and the quiet knowing that you've come home.